moments, pray to Sri Ramakrishna for peace and happiness of the whole humanity. Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Yade Namaha Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the Divine Master, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. We have been taking some teachings of Sri Ramakrishna from the Gospel and trying to dwell upon certain ideas so that we can have a very good spiritual format. And I have been discussing in the last class on the topic awakening. One needs to be awakened. So, spiritual life starts when we are awakened to pursue the spiritual path. Awakening has got different stages. Awakening to the reality. So, all our scriptures declare in very clear terms that every individual, irrespective of caste, color, creed or country, has the faculty of developing one's own spiritual dimension. Everyone is endowed with that faculty. Why should we pursue spiritual path? It is very simple. In order to be free from suffering, in order to be well established in peace and harmony, spiritual path is needed. The faculty is given. The human body, mind, senses, the whole system has been given to every individual. He has that spiritual potency. He can be happy or he can be miserable, depending on how he uses his system. That's the point. So, one needs to know that one has this faculty of realizing one's own true nature, it is because we have not realized that nature we are suffering. So, in spite of all technical advancement and scientific researches, one cannot solve the problem of suffering. It can be solved only through spiritual ideas. Only through spiritual life the problem of suffering can be solved. It is positive. It can be done. So, one can become really happy if one pursues the spiritual path. One can definitely establish himself in peace if he is awakened to this fact. That whole spiritual power is put into this system, this human body. You are born with that equipment. The power is there. The gold is there. Because you are not aware of it, because of ignorance, even though you have the richest spiritual treasure in your own self, you are not able to enjoy it. So, the help of the holy people, the help of the incarnations of God, the help of people practicing spirituality is required. Well, it has been well defined and it has been experienced by the people who have pursued this spiritual path and who have found out that golden treasure in their own heart. And it is given to everybody. So, I am referring to that spiritual power which God has endowed every being. Even the most wicked man, wretched person, has that spiritual power in him. Because the person is not giving attention, because he is not caring himself towards that end, he is passing through all sorts of experiences, making him more and more miserable. So, man wants happiness, but is always suffering because the approach is wrong, the attitude is wrong, the way of life is wrong, thinking is wrong, doing is wrong, perception is wrong. So, how can you expect you to be happy? Tell me. But the joke is, in spite of all these wrongdoings, people think they are perfectly all right. They are most wise people on this earth. They are wiser than God himself. They go to that extent. Well, there is the fun. Great fun. So I am referring to that great spiritual power inherent in every individual being wherever he is born. That's the fundamental truth. You must accept that. See, everything is positive in spiritual ways. It is definite and It has prescription, and you have to follow it properly, you get it. You must know how to unlock. If you don't know how to unlock it, you cannot have that divine experience. So the spiritual power is locked, as it were, in our system. It is said in the Yoga Shastra that this great spiritual power is coiled up in the spinal cord, which is very important, backbone. It is stated there are 7 centers of consciousness. It's really astounding if you keep reading this, if you keep meditating on this idea. It is so thrilling, and it gives us really an awakening. Well, all my days have wasted in not trying to know this spiritual power which is in my own self. What a fool I am. So, I am just referring to those centers, how each center has its function, different function, and how it is influencing the man. We are all under the influence of the power. The whole universe is nothing but power and power and power. Power manifested in different ways, called by different names. That's all. Same power, wherever you go. Well, I was referring to 7 centers which are located in every individual being. In all the beings we are sitting here, everyone has got that. Everyone has got that. So, it is said God is impartial. He has given everything to everyone. What more you want? The first center is called Mooladhara in Sanskrit. That is root support. Where is its location? It is located at the base of the spine. It has 4 petals. All these centers are considered as lotuses. And this particular lotus at the root support has 4 petals. It is crimson in color. It manifests the earth aspect of matter. You know, there are 5 elements which are governing the whole universe. Prithvi, earth, water, fire, space. All these are the 5 elements operating. We are all able to sustain our life on account of the existence, on account of the presence, on account of the execution of the influence of these elements. So this first center which I am referring to, the root support, it manifests the earth aspect of matter. It governs gross physical urges and controls the sense of smell. That is its function. Dwelling on this level of existence, a human being, a human individual is guided by gross subconscious desires. Gross subconscious desires. Now come to the next center. I have already told you all these centers are situated on the spine. The next center, the second one, is called Swadhisthana. It's a beautiful Sanskrit word. Swadhisthana. Own abode. You want to put in English. Where is its location? Everything has got a place, definite place. See, that's how I was amazed when I read the science of yoga, how the yogis have passed through discipline and realized it and given this truth to everyone. We are not practicing, so we are not getting. Simply crying, I am suffering, I am suffering, I am suffering, will not solve suffering. You have to work for removing suffering. Simply crying is not enough. You have to positively adapt some method to get rid of suffering. That's important. Anyway, so the second center, which is called as Swadhisthana, it is located at the base of the organ of generation. Its location is there. It is of vermilion color. Every center has got its color. The first one has crimson color. The second one has got vermilion color. The first one had 4 petals. The second one, this center, has got 6 petals. 6. What is the function? What's its function? As I said, the function of the first center is to manifest the earth aspect of matter. Now here, this center, the second one, it manifests the water aspect of the matter. Water aspect of the matter. It governs the sense of taste and controls the sense organ of the palate. Existence at this center is constantly swayed by gross impulses and imaginations, and by various animal propensities. Now coming to the next center, third center, it's called Manipura. Manipura means city of jewels. It is situated in the region of the navel. As I said, every individual being has all these centers on the spine. So this particular center, the third center, which I am referring to, has 10 petals. 4, 6, now 10. What's its color? It is of the color of heavy dark rain clouds. This center manifests the fire aspect of matter, Agni, fire aspect. Prithvi, Apaha, Agnihi. Agni is the third one. So we are constantly depending on these 5 elements. And this whole body is sustained by these 5. So it controls the impulses of perception, especially sight. As clouds obstruct the vision of the sun, so do the clouds of emotions and impulses obstruct the clear vision of truth. Now we have finished 3 centers: Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura. Now come to the next one. The most important one starts from here. That is Anahata. anahata, uncaused. It is located in the spine, where it is located at the level of the heart. That's why we refer to it as heart center. This one has 12 petals and is of the color of scarlet flame. The center, this particular center, manifests the air aspect of matter, Vayu. It governs the perception of touch and controls the emotional being of our personality, and especially the organ of touch. Existence at this center is characterized by experiences that are subtle and spiritual, as opposed to gross and material. One distinctive feature of this lotus is that its filaments are tinged with the rays of the sun. This fourth center is distinguished from the lotus of the heart, which is 8-petaled and located below it, the spiritual center. The lotus of the heart is not a center of consciousness, but an inner recess resembling a lotus with its petals turning upward. This inner recess has been compared to a lotus because many nerve channels proceed from the heart and spread throughout the body like the rays of the sun. The lotus of the heart is also known as root of bliss, in which concentration upon one's chosen ideal is usually practiced. That's why we always say, the spiritual teachers always say, concentrate on the divine form at the heart center. The fifth center is called Vishuddha, pure. It is located in a region of corresponding to the throat. If you draw a perpendicular line from the throat to the spinal cord, the point where it meets, that is the center. The lotus of this center, Vishuddha, has 16 petals and is of smoky purple color. The fifth center manifests the ethereal aspect of matter, Akasha, and influences our perception of sound and therefore the organs of hearing, speech, and the power of perception. Existence at this center is manifested by complete purity. So Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi, Apaha. Apaha, Prithvi. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. 5 elements. So the whole body, the whole system is being sustained by these 5 elements. Coming to the sixth center, it's called Agnya. That means command, where the command of the divine from above is received. The lotus of this center is situated in the region between the eyebrows, here, center point. It has 2 petals. It is white in color. This center is the actual seat of the mind and controls all our thoughts and visions and the dynamic movements of our will. By reaching this center of consciousness, one attains a vision of truth that is almost absolute in nature. Beyond the 6 centers, there is a plane called Sahasrara. That is a 1000-petaled lotus. It is located at the crown of the head and has a 1,000 petals. It is white as a silvery moon. It is bright as lightning. It contains all colors. So, the Sahasrara is a summit where the individual consciousness meets with the all-pervading universal consciousness. Through the practice of prayer and meditation, the inner consciousness slowly becomes awakened and it travels upward, following the channel of Sushumna from the lowest center, Mooladhara, passing through the next 5 centers and finally reaching the highest point, Sahasrara, at the crown of the head. The awakening of the first center, root base, it activates the roots of the memories of the past. The second center activates gross impulses. The third one activates awareness of the sense of individuality. The fourth center awakens. It brings the spiritual experiences and visions. The fifth center, partial spiritual absorption. And the sixth one, deep spiritual absorption, but still with faint consciousness. So it is described as Savikalpa Samadhi. And the next one, the highest one, the supreme, is Sahasrara, 1,000-petal lotus at the crown of the head. It activates total spiritual absorption. It's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That's the highest point. There is nothing higher than that. When an individual being reaches that highest state, he experiences infinite joy. Infinite. For most persons, the mind is forced to go back and forth between the 3 lower centers, Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, at the organs of evacuation, generation, and the navel. At these stages, a person's mind remains immersed in worldliness. His mind doesn't hanker after spirituality at all. Mind is immersed in total worldly things. It constantly broods over the cravings of lust and greed. Eating, sleeping, and procreation become its dominant preoccupations. That's all. All perception and cognition of the mind at these 3 centers are influenced by animal propensities. But when the person's mind reaches the 4th center, at the heart center, Anahata, he experiences his first spiritual awakening. New vistas open up before him. He sees the same world in its fine and spiritual form. He sees light all around and visualizes the individual soul as a flame. If one succeeds in concentrating at the heart center, he can see that flame. Once he sees that flame, he is experiencing tremendous joy. When his mind reaches the 5th center, he wants to talk and hear only about God and doesn't enjoy anything else. He doesn't relish any other talk. We could see in Sri Ramakrishna's life how lots of people would come and Sri Ramakrishna would be always talking about spiritual ideas, about God. There is no worldly talk at all. Conversations on worldly subjects cause such a person great pain, and he immediately leaves the place where people are talking of these matters. He is not interested in these worldly things at all. Reaching the sixth center, his mind is taken over by a deep spiritual absorption that is not only spontaneous but also continuous. He sees the living form of God like a light inside a lantern. He wants to touch the form, but he is unable to do so. Finally, when his mind reaches the crown of the head, he attains total absorption. Overcome by the intense inebriation of pure bliss, he loses all outer consciousness. His mind no longer wants to come back to the level of body consciousness. Only extraordinary souls can come down from that exalted state, but with great effort. We can see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna how he would struggle to bring his mind down to the normal consciousness. He would forcefully entertain a desire. I want to drink water. Something should be there to pull the mind down. There is nothing mystical, miraculous or esoteric peculiar to Tantra about the awakening and raising of Kundalini power. Kundalini, that is the name of the Shakti, which I said, spiritual power, which is in everyone. In the form of cosmic energy, this Kundalini is present in everything. Even in a particle of matter, this Kundalini power is there. Only a fraction of it is operating, while the rest is left. Coiled up and untapped at the base root. That's how the lot of the power is left unused. While Vedanta describes the absolute as pure consciousness, Tantra calls it Shiva Shakti. Shiva as the absolute and Shakti as its creative power. Any conception of pure consciousness that denies Shakti is only half of the truth. The goal is to realize the truth as one, bringing Shiva and Shakti together. The coiled up Kundalini is a central pivot upon which the whole complex apparatus of the body and mind moves and turns. A specific ratio between the active and total energies of the Kundalini determines the present condition and behavior of the bodily apparatus. A change in the ratio is necessary to effect a change in its present working efficiency by transforming the grosser bodily elements into finer. A transformation, dynamization and sublimation of the physical, mental and vital apparatus is only possible through what is called the rousing of the Kundalini and its reorientation from downward facing to upward facing. By the downward facing, the physical body has been made a coiled curve, limited in character, restricted in functions and possibilities. By the upward facing. It breaks its fetters and transcends its limitations. Such is the science of the spiritual power which everyone is endowed with. Of course, we need to know more about this awakening. Sometimes people suddenly they get excited and emotional, and the mind rises up immediately. But after that emotion is subsided, he falls down. So, anyway, let us try to understand this subject little more in the next class. I'll be dealing with the same topic, awakening, true and false. What is true awakening? What is false one? So one has to prepare oneself thoroughly in order to have true awakening. Thorough preparation is required. It's a must. Do you think you will get immense joy, infinite joy without doing anything? One has to do practice properly, with determination, and it should be possible for anyone to realize the truth. Page 711. Narendra said, nowadays Girish Ghosh thinks of nothing but spiritual things. Master said, that's very good. But why is he so abusive? Why does he use such vulgar language to me? In my present state of mind, I can't bear such rudeness. When a thunderbolt strikes near a house, the heavy things inside the house are not much affected, but the window panes rattle. Nowadays, I cannot bear such roughness. A man living on the plane of sattva cannot bear noise and uproar. That's why Hriday was sent away. It was the Divine Mother who sent him away. During the later part of his stay, he went to extremes. He became very rough and abusive. To Narendra, Sri Ramakrishna asked, do you agree with Girish about me? Narendra, he said he believed you to be an incarnation of God. I didn't say anything in answer to his remarks. Master, but how great his faith is, don't you think so? The devotees listened intently to the Master's words. He was still seated on the mat, spread on the floor, with M by his side and Narendra in front of him. The devotees were sitting around. After a few minutes silence, he said to Narendra tenderly, my child, you will not attain God without renouncing lust and gold. As he said this, great emotion welled up in his heart. Fixing on Narendra an earnest and tender look, Sri Ramakrishna sang, we are afraid to speak, and yet we are afraid to keep still. Our minds, O Radha, half believe that we are about to lose you. We tell you the secret that we know, the secret whereby we ourselves and others, with our help, have passed through many a time of peril. Now it all depends on you. Sri Ramakrishna seemed to be afraid lest Narendra should leave him. Narendra looked at the Master with tears in his eyes. A visitor who was there for the first time heard and saw all this. He said to the Master, Sir, If one must renounce lust and gold, then what shall a householder do? Master replied, you may enjoy lust and gold. What has passed between us is no concern of yours. Mahimacharan, a householder devotee, heard everything and sat speechless. Master said to Mahima, go forward, push on. You will discover the forest of sandalwood. Go farther, and you will find the silver mine. Go farther still, and you will see the gold mine. Do not stop there. Go forward, and you will reach the mines of rubies and diamonds. Therefore I say, go forward. Mahima, but sir, something holds us back. We can't move. Master said with a smile, why? Cut the reins. Cut them with the sword of God's name. The shackles of Kala, time, are cut by Kali's name. Every now and then the master cast his gracious look on Narendra. He said, have you now become an experienced physician? Physician? Quoting a Sanskrit verse, he said, he who has killed only 100 patients is a novice in medicine, but he becomes an expert after killing 1,000. Was the master hinting that Narendra, even though still young, had had many painful experiences of life? Narendra smiled and kept silent. It was afternoon. The devotees were seated around the master, listening to Nabai Chaitanya's singing. Suddenly the master left the room, but the music continued. M accompanied the master. Sri Ramakrishna walked across the courtyard and entered the temple of Radha Kanta. He bowed down before the images, M following him. There was some red powder in a tray. The master offered a little powder to the images and bowed down again. Next he proceeded to the Kali temple. Passing up the 7 steps, he stood on the open porch and looked at the image. Then he entered the shrine, offered red powder to the Divine Mother, and saluted her. As he left the temple, he asked M, why didn't you bring Babu Ram with you? Sri Ramakrishna returned to his room, accompanied by M and another devotee, carrying the tray of red powder. He offered a little of it to all the pictures of gods and goddesses in his room, but not to those of Jesus Christ and himself. Then he threw the powder on the bodies of Narendra and the other devotees. They all took the dust of his feet. In the cool shade of the late afternoon, the devotees walked about in the temple garden, leaving the master and M in the room. The master whispered to M, all say that they meditate well, but why is it different with Paltu? What do you think of Narendra? He is utterly guileless. Just now he is faced with many difficult family problems, and so his spiritual progress is a little checked, but it will not be so for long. We shall stop. So any questions? Yeah. Huh? Oh yeah. Yeah. Kundalini Yoga, Kundalini Shakti, Kundalini, Kundalini, Dalini. I'll find out and tell you. There's a picture there. Yeah, the lotus. No, the lotus with like a spinal cord they have shown. All the lotuses. It is on the picture on the wrapper itself. There is a picture. Probably, yeah. I'll find out and tell you. I'll find. Of course, all these are explained in that book, Kundalini Shakti, Kundalini, Power of Kundalini. It is there. Any question? Absolute Brahman. So, those that Brahman and its power, that's referred to as Shiva and Shakti. The absolute Brahman is called Shiva. The absolute Brahman in static aspect it is called Shiva, in its dynamic aspect it is called Shakti. So the Shiva Shakti combination, that is when the individual being the individual consciousness, when it merges in the universal consciousness, that's the full realization of the truth. That's all. That means when one reaches that highest state, one enters into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Of course, lower than that, we have got another Savikalpa Samadhi, that's also a state of happiness, a great joy, no doubt. But Nirvikalpa Samadhi highest, there is nothing beyond that. But one has to realize it passing through disciplines, and slowly one will realize the highest reality. It depends upon one's own strong aspiration and what he wants to achieve. First there are so many aspects of realizing the truth. First you may try to realize the God in a personal aspect, personal God. Then with the help of personal God you can go to impersonal. That's all. And when the individual consciousness merges in the universal consciousness, then that is the climax. That's the final. True. Shiva, that is true. See, the absolute God functions through his manifestations. The absolute Brahman manifests through certain forms in order to manifest the power. Otherwise, how do you know? So, Shiva is considered for this as renunciation, master of yogis. And though Shiva is also a householder, Parvati is a divine mother, is his wife, but they are not having any kind of conjugal relationship as people do have in the world. So the male and female aspect is shown in order to see the whole universe functions, operates by the combination of this Purusha and Prakriti. So Purusha is represented as Shiva and Prakriti is represented as Mother, Divine Mother. That's all. And in the purest sense, they are one and the same. They are not two, only one appearing as two. But in reality, it's only one. Suppose I give an example. There is an ocean. Hundreds of waves are there. 100 waves are coming. Imagine, 100 waves are coming from. Take from the Lake Michigan. Lots of waves come. You can specify the name. Each wave you can give some name. Because each wave is different in length, etc. But though they have got different names, the essence is water only. And they are not separate from the lake. They are in the lake, they are playing with the lake, and they are one with the lake. It's exactly like that. We are all in God's consciousness. We are all functioning, we are all playing. At the same time, we are all inseparable. But this is the intellectual assertion. You have to realize it through practical disciplines. When you follow disciplines, then these truths you will realize, yes, it is true. Once you realize that, you will be in tremendous joy. That's all. Anything else? Yeah. No, the reason is Girish was a drunkard, alcoholic. So piles of bottles he would drink. And so in that, when he was in the drunken state, he would talk all nonsense. And but with all that, Girish Ghosh recognized the divinity of Sri Ramakrishna, and he felt that he was saved from him, because it is true that Sri Ramakrishna accepted him knowing the condition. And he took the worst person, the worst, you can't expect any worse than him. But he took him and transformed him. Later on, Girish Chandra became tremendous, a very good devotee, I should say. But Sri Ramakrishna himself said, because he had committed all blunders and crimes and things like that, and what happened to those effect of those things? Sri Ramakrishna said all those effects Sri Ramakrishna received it. So he said he suffered from cancer on account of that. Sri Ramakrishna himself tells that. Because he received all the sins of Girish Chandra Ghosh, this cancer came to me. It is not necessary for him to suffer at all. It is not a karmic body. Ours are all karmic body. That is governed by the karma, doctrine of karma. We are propelled by actions, good and bad. But Sri Ramakrishna's body has not done anything wrong from the beginning to the end. He was completely made of sattvic, but he suffered for the sake of humanity. In order to show the humanity, the spiritual ideal, he lived a human life. He passed through all difficulties and situations. At the same time, showing the people how to think of God, how to orient oneself spiritually. And spiritual life, household life does not mean you can go reckless, you can go without God. No. What is needed is remember God. But it is difficult to remember God because household has got tremendous involvements and entanglements and stress and strain, and it's extremely difficult for him to do so. Even though he wants, mind will not obey. Mind runs. So, anyway, renunciation means withdrawing the mind and focusing it on God. That's called renunciation. How do you withdraw the mind? Unless, if your mind is attached to certain thing, the mind goes and sits there constantly. So how can you focus it on God? So they say, give up attachment. Or do it in a non-attached spirit. All those orientation classes they give in order to manipulate, regularize your habits. So, creation of proper propensities is important for spiritual life. That's why I told spiritual format you must have. Then only spiritual life can be programmed properly. Anything else? Very good. Jai Ramakrishna. It has got great significance. In order to understand Vedanta thoroughly and to uplift ourselves in that holy atmosphere, it will help all the spiritual aspirants to a great extent. So, chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name streamed down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name, that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean, he is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere, may all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the worlds be prosperous and happy, may the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.